All right, I'm going to show you how we're going to teach this puppy. Oops, sorry. You can tell it's not a professional video. I'm going to teach this puppy I have here to lie down. She's 15 weeks old. She's young. She's a little bitty thing, little golden doodle. Now, there's several ways you can teach lie down. I like to lure at first, which is where I get the treat, put it in between my fingers, and you're not going to say anything. The dog does not know what down means. Doesn't know what anything means at this point. So I don't want to start the dog from standing. I like to get them in a sit, and when I say get them, that means get them in a sit, not tell them, even if they do know sit. Yes. So, because otherwise you're going to chain the behavior of sit and then down, and the dog will sit and then it'll immediately go down. So you don't want to tell the dog to sit. Then, so once the dog's sitting, then I lure down. Yes, the second the elbows hit and she's actually laying down, I mark it with a yes, or if you have a clicker, you can click, and then I give lots of treats. Now, I like to give, see how she pops right back up? Very common. And a lot of times they don't even pop into a sit, they just get up. So what you want to do, yes, is give several treats while they're down to keep them down. This is all beginning stages, okay? So we're not thinking long term just yet. So look, she was about to get up. Now when I want her to get up, I say, okay, and she can get up. Or I toss a treat and she can get up. I like to just use a mat just because dogs like to lay on a softer surface, so you can do it on a rug or a mat. You should practice on all surfaces. I just like doing it on a softer surface when I'm teaching it, because some dogs don't like lying down on a harder surface, tile floor or hardwood floor. Some dogs don't care, but a lot of them do. Now, with the lure, because I have a lure and I'm luring her, she's waiting for that right now. Yes, she's waiting for that right now. I don't want her to rely on that or cue off of me luring her down, which means if I don't fade this lure and put in a verbal and hopefully also a hand signal, a verbal cue and a hand signal, what I can do is I can train the dog that she has to have a lure and I have to go all the way down, and that's the only way she'll lie down. I see that a lot, especially when you use this method. Okay. Because what happens is you have not faded the lure. So the dog decides that the lure is the cue, or your cue is you going down. So to fade the lure, once the dog is, now I sort of use a hand signal. I usually end up pointing, and that's my down. So I still have the food hidden in my hand here. Yes. So she's going down really quickly. Some dogs don't go down this quickly. If your dog doesn't go down as quickly, if the dog, let's say it's in a sit, but then it just stands up, just get it back, start over, do again. Again, we're not saying any words except yes and rewarding when we want to. We're not telling it to lie down. We're not saying stop. We're not saying sit. We're not saying anything. Okay. And now you saw she stayed down there for a few minutes instead of popping right back up. So, yes. So now I'm not doing this. You see, I'm not doing this. I'm just pointing and waiting. Good girl. Okay. Now, also with little dogs, because I start down low, you want to start getting taller and taller. Otherwise, you will also have to go all the way to the ground, because they will use that as a cue. Dogs can cue off of so many portions of how you're positioned, where you're standing, what you're doing. So now I'm going to stand. Yes. And I'm still doing a version of a lure. Okay. Now I'm doing these steps really quickly. Some dogs, you won't fade this lure for 24 hours or so, or depending on how much you're working with the dog. But you don't fade the lure until the dog is reliably lying down when you're luring it. If I lured the dog like this and she didn't go down right away, yes, that quickly, then I would still be luring for several more repetitions. Good girl. Good girl. Okay. I also don't like adding in the verbal cue until my lure is gone. I want the baby hair down, but I want the actual cue the way I want it to be in the end. So for me, the very end cue, the way I'm going to do this, once I teach her, if she was standing here and I said down and I just pointed, she should lie down. That's the end result that I want. So until we get to that point, I don't want to say down or put it on a verbal cue just yet. She says, what about this? And the dog should understand at that point too. And you can also see this is what you'll get. The dog will come towards your finger. Yes, good girl. You want the dog to understand before you put it on verbal cue. The behavior should be really strong. Okay. Okay. She says, wait, what? Okay. There we go. So now she's lying down longer. You can see she's actually remaining in the down position, which is great. Also with a puppy, the training sessions should be really short. I'm kind of teetering on taking her too long. Even though she's responding, you see she's wandering off more. Got lots of itches. So that's her confused. Yes. Good girl. If a dog does that, and that can happen a lot, they can talk to you, they're a little confused at what you're doing, just do nothing. The biggest thing is, as you can see, I'm quiet, I'm calm, I'm not getting worked up if she's doing it wrong. You know, you can build a lot of frustration. Good girl. You can build a lot of frustration when the dog's not doing what you want, which I totally understand because we're like, why is the dog not doing that? But you build frustration, you start trying to spew out, don't, stop, sit. Or if you have a dog, for example, okay. Like if you have a dog that's an adult dog, well, puppies can do this too, but a lot of adult dogs are that haven't been trained at all, like say like you got it out of a shelter or something. If they're jumpy or they're excited or you're, you know, maybe you're training it when you probably shouldn't be because the dog's too overstimulated, we'll get really, we, meaning the trainer, human, will get really frustrated really quickly because the dog's jumping, it's not sitting, it's not doing what we want. So you need to always evaluate what you're doing. Are you doing this at the right time? Is the dog too overstimulated, too crazy at the moment to be even trying to do training? You know, are you yelling? Are you getting too frustrated? Are you using the right value of treats? Sometimes if you just use dog food, that's not going to work. Sometimes they're like, man, I can get that from a meal. Why would I have that for a treat? You know, so you got to evaluate a lot of things when you're doing a training session. So remember that. Stress needs to be low, you need to be calm, you need to use the right food, the dog needs to be in the right state of mind. As you can see, the puppy keeps wandering off, but that's okay. I'm going to let her wander off and do her thing. She's a puppy. As long as she's not doing anything wrong. Where'd you go? What you doing, Munchkin? What's she doing? Then I'll just let her come back, or I'll totally take a break and put the puppy away and start over. You know, so if you have a young puppy, really young, especially under five months, your training session should be very short, probably 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes at a time. Then give them breaks. You can do play in between. You can take it out to potty and then just go put it down in the crate and let it relax. You just do frequent training sessions, just make them short. So you don't want to draw it out for a long time. And you'll notice this is what will happen when you're doing, and this doesn't just apply to puppies. Some overstimulated dogs are dogs that, you know, training sessions should never be, you should never work a dog for a full hour when you're first training a dog and the dog is not used to working. and even dogs that work for an hour, they've gone through a whole bunch of training. If you're doing work for an hour with a dog, that's a very advanced dog. But I would never train a dog for a solid hour. I would not train a dog for a solid half hour, just training for a half hour without breaks. That's a long time. They need to have, yeah, look at her laying down automatically. They need to have frequent breaks. So remember that. Good girl. That's a good girl. Okay. So that is some training tips. I was just going to really just kind of work on the down. Hopefully that'll help you out. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment.